is the Kirk Byrd Show. We're going to be covering March Madness. We're going to review what's already happened in the first 4 rounds, and then we're going to preview the Final Four. And we've got 3 experts. We've got someone that's a very familiar person you've seen on the show before. We've got Patriots' own Coach Sherman Rivers. Welcome to the
What's
show,
happening?
Coach.
What's happening? What's happening?
All right, and then we got a Potomac grad who's also the head coach over at Potomac. We've got first-year coach Anthony Mills. Welcome to the show, Coach.
What's going on? Appreciate you guys having me.
Oh yeah, I've been wanting to get you on for a while, bro. And I we got these 2 Potomac grads. If we had Jay Golson up here, we'd have had some trouble, man, with 3 of y'all. So, and then I want to introduce everybody to Ethan Weinstein. Ethan is a 10th grader at Battlefield High School, but he knows his stuff, and he's passionate about professional and college basketball, and he's going to kick a little knowledge with us today. Welcome to the show, Ethan.
What's up, Rusty? Kirk, I'm glad to be here.
Good. You're doing what I should have done. Go with your passion. I should have went with sports back in 1987, so good to have you, man.
All right, so
you.
Ethan, let me just
Thanks
give you one bit of advice. All right, this is going to be a version of First Take, okay? Talking about the fight. So you need to get in there. You got to stand up. You got to make your points. All right. If Coach Rivers says something like Jordan plays good defense, you got to stand up and tell him. Okay.
Oh,
all right. So, First Take, you got to get in there. You got to be the JJ Riddick. Okay. You got to get in there, bro. Because if not, Stephen A is gonna kind of push you off to the side like he did Matt. And speak up, Ethan. Okay. All right. But what we want to do, we're going to start out. We're going to talk a little bit about. So I want to start with Selection Sunday, and that's like a big thing every year. I know for years it's been a big thing in my house because I want to see if my schools that I like get in the tournament and then where they're seated. And once they expanded to 68, that helped some teams get in. In fact, my school, the first time they did the last 4, we advanced all the way to the Final Four with that opportunity. But I want to get you guys thoughts on this year's brackets. Were there any things that kind of stood out to you that kind of like, oh, wait a minute, that team didn't make it, or these teams weren't seated properly?
I think you can start with Miami.
Yeah.
Miami wasn't seated
exactly.
properly.
Yes.
They weren't seated properly. They should have been a higher seed. They won the ACC regular season, didn't they?
Right.
Yeah.
And then, everybody, the problem is the last thing you see, those tournament committee people, they saw them Duke beat them pretty bad, right? In the semifinal of the ACC tournament. So that was the last thing they saw of them, and they just completely disregarded what they did throughout the whole season. I mean, it probably didn't help the ACC was down top to bottom, so they didn't give them as much respect for winning that league. But clearly they have shown that they should have been higher than a 5 seed.
Yeah. I think Clemson should have gotten in over a number of teams. I know that their conference record wasn't that good, but the ACC was better than I think they were given credit for. Of course, I am an ACC guy, but there were some quality teams, and Clemson was right there.
That's the other one I thought that stood. Well, one, you're absolutely right. So I thought the committee, kind of downplayed what the ACC was this year. And yeah, I admit I think it was down, but are they biased in that if Duke and Carolina aren't the standard, the conference is down?
Absolutely.
I've seen that. I'm a Carolina fan, but I still think the ACC competition this year was really good. I mean, for UNC not to win like they normally do, I think that played a part of it. But I also believe that UNC didn't deserve. Me being the diehard Carolina fan, I don't think they deserve to get in as well.
No, they didn't. That's a good point. They didn't. I think everybody got that right.
I mean, you could say that they're not giving them respect, but then UVA went in there and lost in the first round.
Yeah,
that was one of the better teams. I mean, so you can like I said, obviously where we at, the ACC has been something we all been watching and growing up with, but it was not that good this year.
Yeah, another thing with the Blue Bloods, you rarely see a 6 seed with 11 losses, and Kentucky had 11 losses.
Right.
Kentucky, sells beer and pizza and all that stuff. They're just a powerhouse, and they got a personality coach, but they were way, way too high, and it all played out. What do y'all think about the play-in games? 68 teams. I don't like that.
I don't really
I like
see
it.
I mean, obviously he talked about the VCU piece of it, and there's been some teams that advanced a little bit. I think they should just kept it at 64. In my opinion,
I think Purdue would like Fairleigh Dickinson not to have.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Fairleigh
Yeah.
Dickinson was one. The reason they had to go to 68 is because I think they just don't get a lot of it right. And then you got these teams that were on the bubble all those years, and you're going, well, yeah, but Syracuse or this team didn't get in. And now they really like.
And that's the nature of the beast, man. Why we got to start everybody get a trophy? Like, you don't get in, you don't get in.
Yep.
And it's like, so we got to, so where does it stop? So they did 68, and then everybody's like, well, we need to add more because these people ain't get in. So
there used to be first round buys,
Right. I ain't old enough to know it, but have seen it, but I know it used to be 32 at one point.
Yeah.
They had to expand past that because the numbers compared to the amount of Division I schools, it didn't make sense to only have that.
Right. Yeah, they've increased so many. Yeah.
64 was enough. They didn't need the playing game.
So the problem, and I understand what you're saying. I think for me, the problem with at 64 is that they give, and I thought if you go to 68, they still give too much weight to me to those Power 5 and actually Power 6 when you include the Big East. They're giving them 7, 8, 9 bids when I think there were years when the CAA proved. I think the CAA went the year when VC, I think we got 4 or 5 bids. Coach, you may actually have been still playing around that time, but the formula for the way they worked it, those other, the Missouri Valley Conference, the CAA, they were getting multiple bids and they could play with anybody. But that's my point.
It's very true. When I was in school was when UNC Wilmington was going to the tournament a lot. They had Brett Blizzard and Craig Callahan. Those two were their 2 best players. And they actually were about to beat Maryland, and what's called Drew Nicholas hit that shot at the buzzer. But they were the team that was going to the tournament every year. Could you have argued that? Our CAA has always been a strong league. Obviously it's not as strong as it was when all those teams left and went to the A10. But you're arguing whether or not mid-major schools should get more teams, or a team like Syracuse, what year was it? They weren't that high of a seed. We got to think that the competition they were playing then, not now, because I think it's a lot more even now.
They got to the Final Four as an 11 seed about 10 years ago.
Right. So you got to look at stuff like that. It's like, all right, them going 500 in the Big East is definitely going to be on par with, say, who am I looking at? College of Charleston finishing in 2nd or 3rd. So it's like, you can't, it's the same thing when they look at the college football playoff. Like, we're looking at this team. Should we keep this team based off who they're playing? And then you got some team, the SEC, that's got to go through Georgia, Alabama, with Tennessee, all of that. It's completely different.
Yeah.
So.
I think it's I was just going to say, I think it's good and bad.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about the transfer portal, because that's what we're all talking about. 1,000 players have entered the transfer portal in the last week. And we got a prime example. Miami, 4 or 5 starters are from the transfer portal. 3 of them were first team all conference players from other schools. So Miami is a great team. They've had the hardest road to the Final Four. But then if you look at the teams in the movement, I see more mid-majors moving up. So it's almost like the minor leagues.
You got mid-majors moving up because you got some of those guys who they might have been big-time D1 players dropping down. Because they're getting the minutes that they want. That's why you see a strong Atlantic 10. Like, Atlantic 10 is a strong conference. You think about that squad that Dayton had during the COVID year. that they didn't get opportunity to play.
Is that the one with the number one?
But Obi Toppin.
Yeah, Obi Toppin. Yep. That was a tough group.
They might have missed round one at that year.
I agree.
Yep.
I definitely agree.
Ethan, you got to be assertive, brother. Be assertive. Get in on this, man. Do it. Come on, jump in. We want to hear you.
About that, I mean, they could have been multi-bid this year. Dayton was good. Richmond was good. VCU, I know they got knocked out in the first round, but they provided a tough match against St. Mary's. Like, they are a potential multi-bid mid-major.
Yeah. No, and I thought, so one of the things I thought, maybe I'm biased because my school's in the A-10, but I thought legitimately that Dayton and even Fordham played very well this year. And it was a surprise because but they played extremely well. They finished third in the A-10, but most of their losses were in that conference, which I think still is a relatively tough conference.
I'm being real with y'all. I don't consider the A-10 mid-major. I just don't. I never have. I know that people say
it's still the bottom of the upper tier. That's a great conference, man.
Right, but that's it always has. I mean, it's like you think back when they had like Temple and all of them, and everybody would say that. I was like, man, it's hard to call the A-10 a mid-major conference. It just, in my opinion, I think
the quality of the SEC showed also. The SEC did not fare that well, and there's probably 2 or 3 A-10 teams that could have gotten.
Yeah. I totally agree. And Coach, both of you coaches, but I felt that way, especially the CAA when they had a run. When they had Richmond, VCU, even William and Mary, you guys had some really good teams over those years. Like I'm like, okay, we got a couple of multiple bids, but it was like also a formula where some of those schools, like the top schools from those considered mid majors, played each other, so they were getting those extra, PowerPoints or whatever they call it. But I think we're all kind of in agreement. And Coach, I just go back to saying that was the only reason I thought I wish that it could be 64, but I wish they were giving those schools more of an opportunity instead of giving the Big 12 and the SEC 9 and 8, teams. That was my only point, And I'm ACC biased. I would have liked to. I understand, Coach Mills, but I think what you said about Carolina, but I still think a Carolina team with, what did they have, 9 or 11 losses? But
listen, that's your bias. Ain't nothing you saw from Carolina this year.
But nobody's going to watch them.
They knew how bad they were, so they didn't even go to the NIT.
That's exactly. True. That's what they didn't even take that. Coach said, let's wrap this up. We got something else to do.
Right. That's true. That's true. I guess, I thought the teams they lost to were all pretty good too. I mean, they lost to a rival in Duke. They lost to a ranked UVA, NC State, Miami. The first loss they lost was to Alabama, who ended up being a number 1 overall seed.
You making excuses for the number 1 preseason ranked team in the country. They're supposed to win those games.
Yeah, you're right. And they did have like a 4-game losing streak right after.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah. Right. You're right. Okay. All right.
Ethan, I want to get your take real quick on UVA going down to Furman. What do you think about that? You're wearing that UVA jersey. What are your take on UVA? I mean, they went down to Furman, and that's like the second time in 5 years, and then they got the bad news. They lost 2 good players to the portal. I mean, people are really upset in Charlottesville. We got a lot of UVA viewers. What do you think about UVA and that loss?
Losing Caden, Shedrick, and Trout is going to hurt. Trout never played a game with us, but he wanted to be closer to his family, so you can't get mad. And Caden was misutilized the entire year. Armand and Reese both might declare, so it's going to be a full rebuild for Tony Bennett. Kind of excited to see what he can do because we haven't had a full rebuild since he joined the program. But that title just makes up for everything. So even though it's a tough loss, you can always remember that title, and at least they're going to go through a full rebuild with Isaac McNeely, Ryan Dunn, so they have pieces, and then Tony Bennett's going to work the transfer portal.
He better be glad he won that title or he'd be fired.
Better. That's right.
Yeah. I was about to say the same thing. You better be glad he won that title after that. So maybe he got something cooking up that make him do it again.
I don't know. Furman did win 28 games, by the way. Furman won 28 games. They're no slouch.
Yeah.
Well, that's like I saw somebody say something about like all these teams that advance deep into it, like they got 34, 35 wins. Like these are not upsets. You know, it's I know we look at it that way because of the seeding.
Because of the seeding.
The landscape of college basketball with everybody transferring, not really having a whole lot of synergy with rosters, people being new to teams, and these mid-majors have kids that have been playing for 2, 3, possibly 4 years.
Yep.
These are not upsets. You know what I'm saying? They're beating inexperienced teams that aren't used to playing together. And they're doing a lot of winning. And it's something comes from, we talked about, you said Kentucky had what, 10, 11 losses.
Yep.
Well, you're looking at a team that's like 30, 34-2. Like they know how to win. They know how to win.
Right.
Yeah.
Regardless of the level, winning is hard, especially in a tournament style. It is hard to do. So if you're getting used to winning all year, you are a good basketball team.
Mm-hmm.
I think that with that, I think that's what we're looking at. That's the new era of college basketball where these guys are staying. I mean, look at you go back to the NIL stuff. Yep. College players are staying. That one and done stuff was nice. Everybody was all for it. But teams wasn't winning the national championship. You had a couple that did, but now you see these guys transferring to these smaller schools and staying for 4 years and making the most out of it. You know, with being on those college campuses, I think college basketball. I like what I see. You know, like you said, I don't think it's not any upset. You're getting to see good team basketball right now.
Yeah.
It's not individuals. You know, and you'll talk about a team like Kentucky. How many of those kids are going off to the draft? Well, he'll be restarting and doing it all over again. I mean, I was just watching the McDonald's All-American game, and he has like 3 or 4 kids coming to Kentucky.
He got the best one too.
Arguably the best recruiting class ever.
Kentucky. Right, in one of his many best recruiting class. But how far were those guys going to go in the tournament? How far are they even going to go in the SEC? You know, so I mean, the landscape of college basketball just it's completely changing, but it's changing for the good in my eyes.
I agree.
I totally agree. And one of the things that stood out to me is this season is I was looking at like, okay, Maryland's best player this year, I think came from Charlotte, UNCC. And, you know, he was a DeMatha guy. They didn't recruit him. He wanted to be able to stay home, but he went down there, did work, all conference, came here, and he was, you know, I think maybe second team all Big Ten, but he was their best player. And now he's going to come back another year. But VCU, we had like 2 guys transfer from Michigan. And so we're getting guys, because I looked at some of our guys, they were 4-star recruits originally. They got there, didn't play as much as they wanted, but they were also, when they transferred, they were like, one was a senior, one was a junior. And so that experience, you know, I think that helps. But the thing I also noticed is that I'll take someone like Armand Baycott, okay? I was talking to Larry Legend, who does our podcast. Sometimes we had Ball and VA, and he's big in the 804, and he's had Armand and his family on the show. I said to him a couple of months ago, I was like, he's not coming out. He's making too much money at UNC to take a chance and be a second-round pick and not have a guaranteed contract. So
Man, I saw that they talking about Bronny going to get
7.2 million. That's crazy.
In NIL, and he ain't even stepped foot on a Dane court yet.
That's right.
That's the whole. They're worth it, but they're not worth it. Financially, they are worth it. They moved the product. They're selling shoes. However, they have not proved anything. And if we think back to like a hyped athlete like Ronald Curry, Allen Iverson at Georgetown could have made millions. So they're paying for potential. And I heard Michael Jordan say that. But real quick, Rusty, before we transition, I just got some current events I wanted to go over. And we were talking about this before we started recording. So Coach Rhodes from VCU is going to Penn State, and he's 7 years, $25 million. Nice raise for him. Ryan Odom from Utah State, a guy that has a lot of Virginia ties, Dave Odom's son, UMBC head coach that beat Virginia, as well as a Virginia Tech assistant. I look for his contract. I don't know what it is. And then obviously George Mason lost their coach. Coach Mills and I were talking about Jason Williford from UVA. That's a good candidate. Yeah, a Richmond guy. He's due. I'd love to see him get that job.
Tell y'all it's going to be Bill Courtney, man. That's who it's going to be.
Yeah.
Okay.
I want to give some props to the Virginia Tech women's team. They play 7 p.m. on Friday. They're in the Final Four. They're going to play LSU. When they beat LSU, they're going to face the winner of South Carolina, Iowa. So they're going to play South Carolina. That's going to be tough. But
You think they're going to beat LSU for real? This is a homer pick.
It's both. I think they're going to beat them, and it's a homer pick. But Kenny Brooks, a guy, he's a guy that won at JMU and Harrisonburg. Somebody in the big Power Five gave him a chance, and look what he's doing. He's probably going to be the national coach of the year. He's got it going on. The big center was a 5-star recruit out of Greensboro. He's getting players like that. So I don't want to overplay with the Hokies, but those are just some current events. Rusty, anything else you want to cover before we start talking about Saturday's games?
Well, I do want to just say one of the coaches, and I'm a little worried about it, is Mike Rhodes, our VCU head coach. There's rumors that he may be going to Penn State.
No, he's going.
He's gone, man.
Yeah,
he did.
$25 million contract.
Okay,
Yeah, he's gone.
You got to listen to the co-host.
I think it was last night. It was like I thought he was going, but I didn't see he actually signed it. I figured he was going.
It's a wrap, brother. So all those guys that came, they're going right back out with them.
Yep. Yeah. And you know what? It's funny because we had this guy that has that on our show that has a VCU
George.
Facebook page. Yeah. George Temple, I think George Temple, but it's called The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And I look at it sometimes, and people just all year complained. In the beginning, they complained, Mike Rose has to go, and I'm saying, what are y'all complaining about? Like, you got a whole bunch of new athletes. They got to gel. In the beginning, it's going to be a little tough. I said, but give them a chance. And now they're like, oh, he's leaving. He said he wouldn't leave. And they love him. And I'm like, y'all so fickle, man. I wish that the only one that ever hurt me was when Shaka left, but I got it. I mean, I understood the Texas money. I mean, you got to take it. But that's Texas, the only one.
Texas should not let him go either, man. Look what he's doing at Marquette. Texas is too impatient. So
it was time for him to get out of there. He for what he was producing. But anyway, all right. So now we can move on. But before, I do want to ask you guys this, because we were talking about the transfer portal, but I want to talk because I saw how this impacted my son, the transfer portal and NIL and the impact it's having on high school players. If you guys have any thoughts about that, that you want to share, I'll tell you mine. I just noticed it's really hard for high school seniors to get some of the same opportunities at Division I, but even some Division II schools, because there's that going up and going down.
Right.
You know, yep. I know for my son, at one point he's going to Penn State, UNC, Maryland, you know, and then next thing you know, it's like, well, I hope he can get Richmond. I hope he can get William & Mary. Then it's just like, okay, maybe Shepherd. You know, it's just because if you look, I look now on basketball and football rosters for college, it's very few that have the high school behind their name. It's usually someplace they transfer from. And what are your thoughts, and how has it impacted maybe some of your players?
Coach Rivers.
How's it impact us?
Yeah.
Sorry, I got cut off for a second. I hear you say me. I mean, it's impacting my point guard right now.
Right.
That's what I thought. Yep.
You know, it's
you talking about Nasir or Jay? You talking about Nasir or Jay?
Nasir. Like Jay and Caden have already committed to go to Mary Washington.
Washington. Yeah.
So they're both going there. Nasir hasn't committed anywhere yet. He's in the process, and some schools have kind of jumped up here lately. But I mean, you're talking about a kid that's first team All-State for 2 years in a row.
I know.
He was third team All-Med as a junior. He's second team All-Med as a senior. And for those y'all know, but I know, Ant, you know, for a Virginia public school kid to get any sort of All-Met recognition is a huge deal. Right. You know, because they just don't give that out like that.
I'm going to reach out to Roy Williams tonight about him, okay?
So, hey, listen, anybody you want to talk to. So, but I mean, it's one of those things that you have a kid who is a 4-year varsity kid. He is a 2-year starter. In his 2 years as a starter, he is 53-5 as a point guard. He led probably one of the best summer leagues in the nation in assists going into his senior year at the Cabell Hoop Summer League. You know, obviously I know his deficiencies. I'm his coach, but at the same time, point guard's a point guard. He finds guys, he defends, and he wins. I don't know what else you want a point guard to do.
It's prototypical, man. If he was 2 inches taller, he'd have multiple offers. And that
listen,
that shouldn't matter.
All that height stuff, that's all well and good. But
look at K-State's point guard.
Like possibly the best player in the whole tournament's 5'8".
Yeah. Yep. Hey, Coach Mills, you got some guys that are going to play college ball. How's it affecting your squad over at Potomac?
With Jaden Harris even you said you use the height, but look at Jaden, he's 6'7".
Right.
He's 6'7", can shoot the basketball, but it's affecting everybody, all seniors. Not just that, but even you put in the COVID year. That's hurting as well. That's
getting his 5th year because of that.
Yeah, you get that 5th year, so that's hurting high school seniors as well. But it's it's hard. You can email these coaches, you can text them, you can invite them out. I've had coaches say to me, my coach is going to take a look in the transfer portal. If that doesn't work, then we'll jump down and you think about offering him. So, you sitting on hold for the next couple of months, hoping that they don't like somebody that's in the transfer portal.
Right. The crazy part about it is, and I'm not going to say what school, I'm not going to say what kid they were recruiting, just a story I know because the coach is talking to me about it. Recruiting a kid, he says, hey, listen, we got this, we got that. You come here. And it's just a different mindset. When coaches used to recruit you, they come in, they talk about you being there 4 years, growing to this, contributing all this other stuff. This coach literally said, hey, man, if he doesn't really like it, he can always go somewhere after the first year. Like that's their mindset.
Already.
Like that. It's so crazy to think about that. We are going into these situations with the thought of, I'm probably not going to be here the entire time that I'm in school.
Yeah.
And I think it's just a wild situation. And listen, I'll say this. I know that we like the way that the game is being played and what we are watching. I do not like the thought process of these college coaches as far as the transfer portal goes, because everybody's looking for the quick fix because we see situations like Kansas State or Miami where they got all these new guys in and they won. And that's great. But we can talk about all these other schools that tried to do the same thing and they bombed out.
Yep.
And like I said, the negative effect it is having on the high school kids.
With
everybody doing it's like no one at that level is really investing in developing kids anymore.
Hey, I want to ask Ethan for your people that follow you, because you're 16, Ethan. You 16? Yeah. You familiar with the way the transfer used to work? You had to sit out a year and 2 years in conference, and for certain relationships, you could not transfer. You would never see a UVA kid transfer to UNC, which has happened. The same year, a UNC kid transfer to UVA. You familiar with that, Ethan? I just want to make sure we level set on you.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the first few years where I was watching college basketball, it went by those rules, and it seems like overnight it went to transfer heavy, get as many transfers as you can, try and recruit, but it doesn't matter because you can always get transfers. So that's always going to be a key piece of your team. And I don't know, it always just didn't sit. It sat weird to me that you're not building a team based off recruiting. You're not building a team based off developing, but you're building a team off getting players from other teams that you didn't have, but the rules changed that it's easier and more accessible for you to build a team fast instead of actually developing a team.
I think to highlight what Coach Rivers said is we have all known it's a business, but it's really a business. And it's been a sham the way the NCAA has tried to play folks over the years. I'm pretty sure you guys knew like what it was really all about. But like you said, Coach Rivers, if a coach is not even talking about relationships anymore, he's like, well, if it doesn't work out, bounce. Like it's, again, we knew it was a business, but I'm hoping that there's still going to be, and maybe it's just not going to be at certain levels, but there's still programs that do care and try to make it work. I don't know. Like I
said, I'm all about player empowerment, man, because like you said, it was a short end of the stick for a while. Coaches could move and go wherever they want, whenever they felt like. Could tell you one thing and do another, so I'm glad that part is kind of evening out a little bit.
Yeah,
I just don't like that it was gone so far I can't remember what I saw. Last time I saw the transfer portal was at such an insane number, it's only going to be a third of those kids are going to actually find somewhere to play next year.
Somewhere to go. Yep. Yeah.
Hey, Ethan, you're sideways, buddy. I was just going to say, I think they will change the transfer portal rules back, but not all the way back where the coaches have all the power. Because Rusty, you and I have talked about the coaches having all the power and they get an athlete and maybe hold them down. But the other thing is, I think the NIL is good because if a kid is red hot and can sell a lot of products in 3 years and make that money, and then he never does anything, but that's where the education, and two, the one and done needs to go. Go straight to the pros, go straight to the pros, make your money. They're adults, let them go. So
like I said, the NIL stuff is great, man. I wish they had this stuff around when I was playing.
Yeah.
I remember being at the CA tournament and seeing a big old poster of myself in the city of Richmond. I'm like, I wish I got some money from that.
Yeah.
You know
I know my brother, Michael Vick, and a lot of guys at Virginia Tech.
yeah.
I could go into the bookstore and see my brother's jersey. It didn't have his name on the back, but it had his number. And I'm like,
I walked in William Mary's bookstore about a year ago, and I seen a jersey in there that I signed back when I was in school.
wow. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I ain't getting no money from that.
No. So I'm not. I think for me, I'm definitely cool with NIL, but I think the big scam that people don't really realize is that the schools could afford to pay the players.
Right.
I mean, they're signing billion-dollar contracts to show these games, and the schools are getting that money, and they're not paying the workers.
Right.
the labor is not getting paid. The coaches are getting all that, or the
Everybody's
getting it, but the players. All right, so look, we could do this. We might have to do a whole nother show on this.
32 minutes for our fans. At 32 minutes, boom. Now we're going to the Final Four. Rusty, set us up. We got two really good games that are going to be in Houston. And I'll let you take it away. We got some local ties with players and Larinaga. Go ahead.
Okay, but first, Kirk, why don't you tell people where they can find us?
Oh, yeah. Kirk and Byrd Show on YouTube. Some people, what do they call us, boomers, do not have a Google account. If you have to have a Google account, all right, to subscribe. You can't do it. Can't leave a comment. So please subscribe to us. Just look up the Kirk and Byrd. We're on every social media platform. We're working on a lot of things. Our website's rolled out. A podcast, if you want to do audio. I've been listening to audio podcasts to prep for this one. But yeah, please just take a quick minute and subscribe. And then it's
also a good way to see the comments. Now, we also post things on Facebook, and that's where Coach Rivers and I kind of had a couple of discussions. But you can have those same discussions on the YouTube comment section, and you can just see how knowledgeable I am of the game of basketball. And I have to teach Coach a little bit something.
Don't take the bait, Sherman. Don't take the bait, Sherman. Don't take the bait.
I'm not falling for it. Final Four. We talking about the
Final Four. So let's go.
Let's start off with San Diego State and
FAU. Florida Atlantic University. Any thoughts? I have a lot, but I want to start with Ethan.
I mean, listen, for two teams that ain't ever been there before, it's great. You know, it's awesome for them. I always like the way the San Diego State played. I like the way that they defend and get after it. So any team that is, you see their defense being at the forefront of stuff, I'm always going to be a fan of that because of the way that we were conditioned as players. And I know Ant can speak to this too, what Kendall did with us back when we were at Potomac. So we always have an appreciation for the teams that get after it on that end. They always got guys that just they all look like they could be related to Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah.
They always do. And they know the type of kids they like to recruit, and they recruit them. And they're really good two-way players, like about 6'6" or so, and can do everything. You know, play really hard, defend, can knock down open shots. So, then you got
San Diego State has some pros, man.
Yeah, they do.
They have some pros, and I'm sure they might be older because of the portal or whatever. But like you said, they recruit guys that fits their program, and they are hard-nosed guys. And they I mean, you can just look, they well coached.
Right.
Well coached, but like you said, I love them because of the defense, man. They just get after it, and it's in your face, not giving up this. We're gonna make you work for every last point. I see them winning and making it to the championship round. Just because they're gonna do all the little things. It look like they don't mind diving on the floor, jumping out of bounds, hitting you in your mouth. That tough Detroit Pistons style defense with a little Michael Jordan on the team too.
Yeah. Ethan, what's your take on that game? That's a good game.
I think
I think it's the same for both
you
teams,
will,
though.
man.
Where they'll do the
Sherman bogarted you, man. We said Ethan and Sherman Weinstein went up. So now we need
My bad.
Ethan Rivers. No, it's all right. Ethan, give us your take, man, on San Diego State, Florida Atlantic.
Well, I think it's the same for both teams where they'll do the little things. I mean, FAU out physical Tennessee, the team that beat Duke purely because they were physical the entire game, and they just didn't call fouls, which it worked for Tennessee. FAU beat that team. They are also a team that will do little things. John L. Davis has become a legit star in this tournament. 17, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, 1.5 steals per game in the tournament. Elijah Martin, he's been huge. I think it's going to be close because Matt Bradley, he does have experience, a fifth-year senior. They do have a transfer, Darian Trammell. But I don't know. FAU won their last 11. They've won close. They've won late. So I think they really can battle and beat any team anyway. That's one of the big things I'm looking for in the Final Four. And they've won every single way.
What do you think about the size, though? Because San Diego State's got 6'9", 240, Ladie. Johnson 6'7", 225, and Nathan Mensah is 6'10", 230, and those guys can all play. Coach Mills and I were talking. They've only got one score over 10 points, and everybody else is even. I mean, don't you think that Florida Atlantic and Coach Dusty May, don't you think they have to get really hot? Ethan?
Maybe, but they've been hot all tournament, and FAU does have size. Vladislav Golden, I believe he's 7'1", a transfer, 10 points, 6 rebounds, amazing inside presence the entire time, can score inside. So even though they aren't all around a big team, most of their rotation is guards. I believe 7 of the 9 players on the rotation are listed as guards.
Yep.
But Vladislav Golden, he's the player fit to go against San Diego State with his size.
Right. So
He's a big boy.
the spread is 2. What do y'all think about that spread? I think the spread should be 3 or 4. You know?
I mean, it's you can talk about here or there. I think that there are 2 evenly matched teams for different reasons. FAU guards are really good, and they got the big boy inside of that a really good game the last game. So, I think it's going to be a good game. I think it's 2 teams that nobody can look at and be like, all right, man, the underdog this, because they both are. So you kind of take that piece out of it. But I think it's going to be a good basketball game.
I agree with that. It's no pressure on either one of those teams to win.
Right.
It's no like this. I mean, I think it with the whole Final Four, there's no pressure. It's like I wasn't number 1, I wasn't number 2. I think what you're getting ready to see, they're just going to come out and it's going to be a flat out just good basketball game between those 2. It's going to be exciting. I think it's going to be more exciting than what people think. And it also depends on what type of basketball you like to watch. I know I'm going to love watching San Diego State just because of the way they defend. But I just see no pressure. There's not going to probably be a whole bunch of hype. And, if it's a UNC Duke game, it's, people lined up around the arena and can't wait.
Man.
It's just going to be just a regular old basketball game.
Coach Mills, Energy Stadium is probably going to hold 50,000 people. None of these guys played in a game that big. And Florida Atlantic doesn't play. I think San Diego State is less likely to get butterflies from the big scene because they play in big-time arenas, but they can transcend that. Does anybody think Florida Atlantic is going to win?
I don't know who's going to win, but I definitely think they can. And the reason I say that, I mean, I think we all agree that either can win. But for me, I think what I just an indicator of just in the tournament, FAU has had a tougher path. First of all, they were their seeding was too low. They made it a 9. But if you just look at the teams, their path there, they started out by beating a strong Memphis team.
Yep.
They beat Fairleigh Dickinson, who, beat Purdue, but they beat Fairleigh Dickinson. But after that, they beat Tennessee and they beat Kansas State.
They're 35-3. 35-3.
Listen, that was the team I was talking about when I said it earlier. These are not upsets. There's a
Right,
good basketball
right.
team.
And so, and San Diego State, they had a quality win. The biggest one, of course, was Alabama. But I just think, I think FAU can and may win. I don't know. That would be my pick. But
I would say
again,
this: Dusty May has got to be the national coach of the year. Unbelievable job he's done.
I don't know. Well, yes, he has, but I also think the Texas coach did an outstanding job. He took over a program after Kirk Byrd had to leave, and he still has interim on his title. I don't know if they've given him the job yet.
He got a contract now.
Oh, he did? Oh, perfect.
He got a contract.
Good.
Oh, you give Dusty May that recruiting budget that Texas has. We'll see what he does. So I think Dusty May.
All right. Well, we'll move on, but I did want to help Coach Mills because I think he misspoke. He said something like the Pistons with Joe, but I think what you meant to say was they had that player in Joe Dumars, who actually was a Jordan stopper. Okay. He could play great. There's actually a picture of him, I think, with Sports Illustrated, stopping Jordan, and he could light it up.
It's just like Ruben Patterson, who called himself a Kobe stopper. Like all these people that call themselves something stopper, it's all lies.
Right.
Ethan, have you ever heard of Ethan, have you ever heard of Joe Dumars?
Yeah, of course.
You're a basketball.
But he's like Joe Dumars.
He didn't even flinch. He said, yeah, of course.
Ethan, where'd he go to college? Where'd he go to college? I'm not Googling this. I know. You know?
I'm terrible with knowing.
McNeese State. McNease State. All right.
Okay. All right. So I was just trying to help Coach Mills out.
We got a good story. Let's transition over to, I want to set up Larinaga in Miami, who, by the way, had the toughest path to the Final Four with who they knocked out. And Jim Larinaga is only the second coach to take two teams to the Final Four. Larry Brown took UCLA in '80. They lost to Louisville with that Darryl Walker, Skywalker team. And then
no, that's not true.
Skywalker.
No, hold on. But your point about taking teams to the Final Four.
Larry Brown took two teams. UCLA.
Rick Pitino's won 2 national championships. One in Louisville, one in Kentucky. So how is that? It's like 7 or 17 coaches that have made it to the Final Four, and it's about several that have won with different programs. But anyway,
man, you killed my research on that one.
I know.
I
got my research up here, son.
You fact check.
Okay, let's go ahead. Let's go. Okay, go ahead, Kirk. Go ahead. Keep giving us those.
But I think Larinaga. Oh man, he took 3 teams, Rusty. Good bit. He took
Providence,
Kentucky, and Louisville.
Yeah,
I wasn't gonna say nothing. I was just gonna let it ride because y'all was arguing.
No, man, I like being wrong.
Because Billy Donovan was the point guard.
I know my stuff. I know my stuff, and I remember that year. that year.
Thank you, Coach Rivers.
That was
I appreciate
84.
you.
That they were the 3rd Big East team with St. John's and Georgetown. And
yeah. Okay, so let's go on to the Miami and UConn matchup. This time, Ethan, can you share your thoughts on this?
I think it's going to be a good game. UConn, I think it's either going to be a UConn blowout or Miami wins close. And that might be a hot take, but UConn is 0-4 in games decided by 5 points, I believe. They've struggled, and though they have had a tougher regular season than any of the teams in this with the Big East, went 13-2 in their last 15, so 9-2 in their last regular season games. All of their games have been dominant. Even Iona and St. Mary's, they still pulled away very early in the second half. Arkansas and Gonzaga were complete dominations, which may seem good for UConn, but they haven't proven to win in different ways. Miami, a late comeback against Drake, a late comeback in the Elite Eight, and then in Houston, they led the entire way. In Indiana, they had a slightly comfortable win, so Miami's proven to win every which way, and though they didn't look as good in the regular season, I think that Isaiah Wong, he's become a star. Nigel Pack and Jordan Miller, Logo Poplar, he's been amazing this tournament. Norchard, O'Meara, they have a 5-man rotation pretty much. But if those 5 guys can stay on the court, I think Miami got the upset win.
I want to point out a local tie. Jordan Miller went to Loudoun Valley High School in Purcellville, right up the road. He was a George Mason guy. Transfer portal worked real good for Larinaga. And then also Jordan Hawkins is a DeMatha kid. He's from Gaithersburg. Those are the 2 local ties.
That kid actually played against Potomac before he left Gaithersburg.
Yeah, he played
in 2019. I was actually at the game. I remember it. He was at the Governor's Challenge in Maryland, and they were playing. The Potomac was playing after us. And they played against that kid, and he was nice then.
Right. So, Ethan, since you're predicting an upset, my question is this: they got a 4-guard rotation, and with Sanogo, who is a beast, 6'9", old school, 250-pound guy. They've got size with Jordan Hawkins. They're inside out. But I would counter that with your point. Miami averages 80 points a game. And I do think that when Miami gets hot, they will win. Coach Mills, who are you picking in this game?
UConn's been manhandling teams.
Yep.
So once again, I think it's going to be a good game. But just watching what UConn has been doing versus every team, and watching what Miami's been doing by coming back. Well, with UConn, you're not coming back. That's what I've been seeing. You know, you go down 15, you go down 20, and if you go down 25, it's going to end up to 30. So you're going to have to play your A game the whole time with those guys. They coach well. They play hard, very unselfish. They get after it. I mean, they played Gonzaga, Arkansas. I mean, they just manhandled those guys. And these are teams that are experienced. Even St. Mary's, Iona, they lost by 2 to Marquette, but I mean, they just been in the tournament. They've playing with a chip on the shoulder, and they just been manhandling everybody. So if Miami wins, it has to be a close game the whole way. If they get down 10 to 15, I don't think they stand a chance.
Does anybody on the panel know the rotation from Miami? How deep it is?
It's 8.
It's 8?
But
That's
5
not
of the
bad.
guys play around like 28, 29 minutes, and then 3 guys played just like over 10 plus minutes.
How about UConn?
UConn,
Do we know how deep
I'm
they
not
go on the
sure.
bench? I just don't know how
I'm
deep
not
they
sure.
go on the bench. Yeah, I think they're a little bit deeper. So,
Coach Rivers, what are your thoughts on this?
I mean, listen, it's obviously the experience of Larry Nagin in the tournament is a big deal. I think talking about UConn manhandling teams, it means they haven't played a game where it's been close yet. So if Miami keeps it close, then those guys are going to start playing a little bit different than what they've been able to play with so much freedom, being up on everybody by so much. I think it's when you have really good guards like Miami does in the NCAA tournament, it means a lot. And then they got a guy inside that is good enough to play that guy one-on-one, where they don't have to double like Gonzaga was trying to do in the first half and getting themselves in trouble, where he had like 5 assists at halftime. So he can play him one-on-one, and then everybody else just kind of stay home so they're not giving up a bunch of shots. But this is also one of those years like where UConn just like wins the national championship. You know, like how back when they won it with Shabazz Napier, and then when they had Kimba, they just you're like, man, I can't believe they won it. You know what I'm saying? It's like you feel like it's like one of those years, but I would not be shocked if Miami won the game based off of how Wong has been playing and all those other guys. And then, like you said, Larry Nagar's experience in the tournament. And just so everybody knows, when George Mason went to the Final Four, they beat UConn.
yep, that's right.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So,
Coach Rivers, what's your pick? I'm sorry.
8 people.
Go ahead, Ethan.
UConn's rotation is 8 guys down.
So about the same. So, Ethan, you're picking Miami, and then I think you said you're picking San Diego State, right?
I said Miami and FAU, but I wouldn't be surprised if it goes either way for both games.
Who are you picking to win?
Kirk, you got to write this down. So
I got it. I got it.
Okay. All right.
Who do you have to win it?
I think Miami. I think it's. I don't know. It's such a weird year that UConn seems like the heavy favorite.
Right.
I don't know, if Miami keeps it close throughout the game, I believe in them winning late.
Coach Rivers, I think you've already said Miami, correct?
no, I don't think Miami's going to win because I think the big kid's going to get in trouble against the UConn kid. And if he gets in trouble, it completely changes the whole game.
So who you got UConn playing?
San Diego State.
And who you got winning?
UConn.
All right. Coach Mills.
I got UConn and San Diego State. Who do I have winning? I think I'm gonna go with UConn.
That's a tough one. Rusty.
We're gonna have all South Florida finals.
Yes.
FAU against Miami, and ain't nobody scared of nobody because they done played each other growing, some of them, in the hood or in the summer or whatever, and it's just going to be a South Florida finals. I'm going to pick FAU to win it all. I think at this point anybody
He's
can beat
just trying to be Mr. Outrageous.
You know it, man. That's what he does. He don't really mean that.
All right, so you got FAU.
No, you don't.
That's not on, I bet you that's not on his fan duel.
He gonna if they mess around and win, he's like, listen, he gonna say, I didn't want to jinx you guys. That's why I picked against it.
You were betting on it, Rusty. You were betting.
DraftKings, I lost all my money last weekend.
Exactly. If you're right, your mortgage is paid off, all your mortgages on whatever your rental properties. Now, who would you bet?
Okay, so right. Okay, so those are my thoughts. But if I had to bet my money, I'm still going with FAU.
Oh man! All right.
This guy.
Right. So, I got a couple things.
I hope they win. Now
the way it should go. Listen, UConn.
Just say this. I have your cell phone number.
I know. That's what I'm about to say. I'm turning my phone off.
I will be blowing you up.
As soon as one signing moment come on and it's FAU, I am turning my phone off.
San Diego State should blow the doors off of Florida Atlantic. Blow the doors off of them. UConn should crush Miami. That's my brain. This is the season of upsets. Two schools that are 7 miles apart are going to play each other. Miami and FAU. Here's a teaser. What's Jim Larinaga have in common with Kenny Smith and Kenny Anderson?
I don't know.
They both started at guard at Archbishop Beloy and Quaint. That's my pick. Miami.
Okay.
ACC.
Let me just get spit a couple of facts. One, Miami finished 29-7.
Yep.
And 15-5 in the ACC. UConn was 29-8, which I think, in retrospect, when we look at it, the Big East was the toughest conference this year in college, or the best, when you consider their production in the tournament and all of their top, I think 5 teams that made it advanced, and then the 6th team was Villanova. Now they had a bad year. Jay Wright was gone, but my point is that was a very tough conference to be doing that to Villanova as well. I just think at this point, I don't think you can call, Miami an underdog just because they're a 5 compared to a 4.
You got to throw the seeds out. It don't matter. You know what I'm saying? They seeded Miami wrong anyway.
Yeah.
But like you said, their records are basically the same, and Miami won the ACC regular season. So no one is an underdog in these games. You can say FAU out of all 4 of them would be the one you could pick, but still, like you said, what are they, 35-2?
They're 35-3.
3.
So they got the most wins out of all the teams left.
All right, so we're going to release this. I'm sorry, Ethan. Sorry, buddy. Your audio is not as loud. I can't hear you. Go ahead, Ethan.
Sorry. I don't know if this is a hot take, but I'm not really sure if Miami was underseeded. I kind of agree with it.
I agree with you.
If anything, I thought they were going to fall 6.
Has there ever been a year, and I'd have to do the research, that team that won the ACC was not a 1, 2, or 3 seed ever? I think it's because it's Miami, a traditional football program, and if it's not a blue blood, they're not giving them the same respect.
Duke won the ACC tournament and was still a 5 seed. Miami was 29.
Duke wasn't good for most of the season. Duke wasn't good for most of the season. Like they got hot late. They got hot late.
I will say this: Miami has beat Indiana, Houston, and Texas. They have earned their way. I think UConn, with that spread, Rusty, if I were betting with that spread, I would bet Miami. That spread is 5 points, isn't it?
Yep, 5.5.
Win your money.
That's what I'm doing.
Vegas. I don't get
that. That's what I'm going with that spread. DraftKings, look out, here I come. We need y'all to be a sponsor like y'all do for Dan Le Batard. All right, look. So, any Any last thoughts? We'll start with you, Coach Rivers, on this overall, this tournament, this season. Anything you want to talk about? And I don't care. The floor is yours, man.
It's tournament been awesome, man. You know, it's like the way that it's been, the amount of upsets, the fact that we have a Final Four for the first time that doesn't have any of the top seeds. You know, for the casual fan of the NCAA tournament, you know, to see this, you know, I'm sure everybody's brackets were ruined 2 weeks ago. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, I don't know. I didn't pick any of these teams being the Final Four. I know they said it was probably like 0.2% of people that did. You know, I had Houston winning the whole thing. So
Me too.
Clearly I was wrong with that. But you know, it's been great to watch. It's obviously exciting. I'm going to enjoy it more because now I don't have to worry about if I'm going to win my bracket if one of these teams
right.
win. You know, so
Yeah.
I can just watch the game and enjoy it. But you know, I'm obviously watching this tournament and being able to argue with people about it, and it's been great. It's been good.
Yeah. Yep. Thanks, man. Thanks, Coach Mills.
I'm just going to enjoy the games, man. I think what you're getting ready to see is a new trend in college basketball.
Yep.
With, like you said, the transfer portal, the NIL deals. We might start seeing some of these smaller schools make it a little bit further. We might start seeing some of these smaller schools trying to put some of these bigger schools on their schedule a little bit earlier instead of tournament time. That's what I would like to see, you know, to make it a lot more interesting. But I mean, I agree with Sherman. I'm going to enjoy this because I don't have nobody in the fight at all. My bracket was gone a long time ago. You're just getting ready to watch good basketball, but you're getting ready to watch good, solid basketball. And I think this has been a long time where probably nobody outside of UNC, Duke, Kentucky, and all those other teams, or UVA when they won it. I know I'm not a big San Diego fan. Like I said, I'm a Carolina fan, but it's the first time you're going to see 4 different teams in the Final Four that deserve to be there.
Yep.
That's going to work hard. You're going to get ready to watch some unselfish basketball. And it's
great
going to
coaching.
be great coaching. It's going to be 4. It's going to be 2 solid games and 4 solid teams. But I also, like I said, I think this is what we're getting ready to see for the next couple of years in college basketball. And then you see how fast those coaches that are at those smaller schools are moving up quickly too. So the whole NCAA tournament has been very, very interesting.
You know, the guy at Fairleigh Dickinson, where do you get the new job at? Where is he at now?
Iona, I believe, right?
Yeah, he went to Iona.
Iona.
About Rhodes going to Penn State. So
I think some of those coaches didn't even get to fly back home. They was parachuting out.
Yeah.
They wasn't even flying all the way back. Office was already packed. They put out their contract and was like, I gotta go.
So when Patino left Iona to St. John's, who got the Notre Dame job? I forget.
The guy from Penn State.
That's right. We said that earlier. Okay. All right. Anything else, Coach Mills?
No, that's it.
Okay. Ethan, final thoughts.
Oh, I can't wait for the tournament. Should be good. A lot of well-coached teams. Should be one of the best. I think coach games or coach tournaments in recent memory, because these aren't teams filled with talent. But mid-conference USA is 2 good teams, or conference. UAB and North Texas definitely deserve to at least have a shot to get in there, battling for the NIT. Both teams in the finals. So, yeah, I would be surprised if the Big Ten doesn't have some bids go down next year. Maybe a conference structured like Conference USA, where they have 2 elite teams, a clear bid stealer, maybe gets 2 bids next year because of the success that mid-majors have had this year.
Kirk?
I got to be in Baltimore in 11 hours, by the way.
All right. So, any thoughts, Kirk?
Yeah. Sunday night, how sweet it is. Hokies cut down the nets. Monday night, Miami.
Okay.
Ice, baby. Larinaga.
All right. Well, my last thoughts are, you know, 2 things. When we talked about the transfer portal earlier, and we talked about NIL, and we have athletes staying longer. I meant to point this out earlier, but I thought when I looked at the first, second, third team All-Americans, this was the first time I ever saw it so heavy with juniors and seniors. That it kind of dissipated when you had all these one and dones, or even if they stayed for a second year, you might have seen a lot of sophomores, very few seniors. I think it was even looked down upon because if you stayed longer, they probably thought you weren't as good. But I like the fact that you're getting these older players, more mature, although I don't like what it's doing to the high school, but you're getting teams. I think we're going to have to get rid of the term Cinderella, because you're just going to have these veteran teams be able to advance, and you can become a veteran team a lot quicker nowadays. The other thing I wanted to point out is I really was disappointed by the way when they were telling like who in the predictions of where teams who was going to make it and who's going to be seeded. And they kept using these quad 1 wins and quad 2 wins. To me, all they're doing is when they do, I don't know the formula for the quad stuff, but I remember back in the day, it was like, did you see this team play? And I thought, VCU, that they're not helping my argument by losing to St. Mary's, but if you saw them at the last third of the season, they played as well as anybody in the country. So you had to see them play and not just say, oh, they only had one quad 4 win. So I think with this the world we're going to be living in, I'd like to see the committee really give those next tier, what they're not calling Power 5 or 6, an opportunity to make it, because we're seeing what they can do. My thoughts, the last thing I'd say is a lot of people are saying, well, I'm not going to tune in, or I'm just going to watch the second game because it's not the Blue Bloods. But to me, that they're not true fans of college basketball. Because what people a lot of times say is, oh, the Cinderellas are fun in the first few rounds, but by the time we get to the Final Four, we want the Blue Bloods like last year. No, to me, I'm going to enjoy this. I'm going to enjoy this because I know it's players playing hard. You got guys coaching their butts off. And so I'm looking forward to it from that perspective. And again, I might be biased because I went to a school that is kind of considered a mid-major, but I also went to UVA for grad school. And UVA, again, I didn't even get into it with the Tony Bennett thing, but I'm looking forward to this. I would be happy for any of these teams. And although I like the UConn program, they're the one I would prefer to be fourth in the order of winning, because people don't consider UConn a blue blood, but actually they got 4 national championships.
See, I don't know why they don't.
I know they should. That's right. I could guarantee you this, and I love the program, but I bet people would say Georgetown as a blue blood before they would think Villanova. And Georgetown's only got 1, But anyway, all right. Last bit. This is the last bit. I will give you guys a chance to promote or anything you want. So, Ethan, can you tell people where they can find you online or Twitter or social media?
Yeah, Ethan Weinstein on Twitter and Ethan Weinstein on Instagram.
Okay. Coaches, do you have any camps or anything coming up that you want to promote?
June 19th to 22nd, and Monday through Thursday, Patriot Fundamental Basketball Camp. We know everybody in the camp isn't a future NBA player. We about having a good time, having fun, man. We only do 1 week because I can't do more than 1. So that's the only one we do. It's that first week right after school ends. So get in there, get signed up. We got prizes and championship stuff on the last day. All our players will be there as counselors. So, come enjoy yourself, have a good time.
Coach, I might want to come out there just to enjoy them. I've always loved going. I used to go to all of Tamika Dudley's camps. She did a great job.
Come on out there.
Oh, yeah. Coach Mills, anything you want to promote?
We have the Potomac, the Blue Blood Basketball Camp. We're going to do it in August. We're working on getting our dates correct because we're hosting summer school. We had a good turnout last year. We're going to do it again this year. Tons of fun. Kids just getting after it. Lots of fundamentals and just having fun. And we have alumni that come back and talk to the kids as well, which is always great. So if you're not doing anything with your kids, bring them on through the Blue Blood Basketball Camp.
Sounds good. So again, I want to thank you all for joining us, and it's all in good fun. And the only difference between here maybe is if we didn't have the camera on, is maybe the language could be a little different. But I don't know. I can't say that might be the only difference. Or we might, we could be in a barbershop or whatever. But all right. Hey, thank you guys so much, man. I think a lot of our viewers are really beginning to understand and know just what great coaches, what great athletes we have in Prince William County, but all of Northern Virginia. And although Kirk and I are from the 757, this is our home now. And I appreciate everything you guys are doing. I mean, your programs, I really enjoyed your classic Coach Mills during the Christmas time. And so anything we can do to help you guys, just let us know. All right.
Appreciate that, man. Appreciate that.
You guys. Appreciate it. It was fun.
Hey, next week, Thursday, the Masters starts. So get your money. Brooks Koepka is going to win the green jacket. There you go. You heard.
Hey, Ethan, we appreciate you not wearing anything purple today, brother.
I was going to say that. All right. Hey,
I had to represent.
All right,
Ethan.
I'll take that.
All right. So for Ethan Weinstein, Coach Sherman Rivers, Coach Anthony Mills, and my co-host, Kirk Hilliard, this has been the Kirk and Byrd Show. We are out.